is Zhu Wenjun, grandmaster from China, and well, she has 1 point lead here as well, so seemingly nothing can move her from first spot in this tournament, but let us see. Right, and the pairs for the last round, you can see the round will start in some seconds. The pairs are Harika Dranavali of India playing with white against Almira Skripchenko. Yeah, final announcement from the chief arbiter, I believe, considering the closing ceremony and so on. Bella Khotenashvili is white against Khademal Sharyeh of Iran. Then Zhu Wenjun, the winner of Grand Prix Series and very likely the winner of this tournament, is white against Natalia Pogonina. Valentina Gunina with black against Alexandra Kosteniuk. And, well, we have Olga Gira as white against Nino Batsiashvili. And Natalia Zhukova is white against Lela Javakhashvili. Right, those are the pairs for today. Alexandra Kosteniuk has the white color against Valentina Gunina. Those two played where Alexandra prevailed with the white pieces. Yeah, mainly not sure after 1c4, probably not the move she had expected. Checking the openings here, a couple of Catalans we have. Zhu Wenjun against Pogonina is a Catalan. Yeah, you can see 1c4 and Almira is thinking. Kosteniuk and Gunina. So, a Caro-Kann played. Gunina comes very well prepared. 1:35 for her. 1 hour and 35 minutes. So all those 12 moves we have on the board, black blitzed out. So h4, h6. This is a well-known line. Knight f3, h5, bishop h7. Yeah, perhaps I have to mention that, well, main white shot for an advantage in a Caro-Kann is actually a move e4, e5, which is now basically, yeah, I think it's kind of considered to be kind of an only try for white to get something substantial, because after knight d2, those positions are extensively studied. I mean, a lot of theory here, and, well, in most of the cases, black knows his way around. Bishop h7, this all being known, e6, bishop to d2, bishop e7, castle long, and an early c5 played in order to develop the knight on c6 if given a chance. Well, allows a check on b5, but I guess this is nothing special for white. I mean, you can go for an ending here, but doesn't look particularly risky for black. So somewhat restricted black's majority after eventual swap of those pawns. I mean, I believe those pawns are getting exchanged. Let's say black's gonna take. Somewhat restricted majority of black's king side is, well, compensated in a way with the fact that h5 pawn, I mean, it does restrict black's possibilities, but in many lines it's just hanging. It's just hanging there on h5. I mean, bishop d6 now is probably not such a great idea because of knight f5, but later on, I mean, let's say black castles, knight f5, you do have bishop c5. And later on, one day, I mean, you might play bishop d6 and then h5 already becomes a target. So queen b5 is not such a dangerous continuation. I think white just play something, play king b1 or he1, rook he1 possibly. Yeah, but then I think it still must be a theoretical position, and judging on a speed Gunina played those previous moves, it must be, yeah, well known for her. And therefore, as I said, I mean, it's I cannot call it not a principal line, but somehow it's, yeah, well studied by both sides, and usually black gets a nice play here. What else do we have? And well, a very interesting Catalan. After c5, Alexandra played knight e4. C takes, knight b to d7. Well, knight b3 was played, and after short castle, white went to play g4. Well, with the clear intention to break with g4, g5, to open the files and to get black's king mated. So black really needs to do something about that. And taking over there is probably not such a bright idea. I'm wondering what's going to be played in this case, because there are options for white. Queen g3 is one sensible move. Rook g1 is an interesting idea. Queen e2, yeah, opening. I mean, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, it feels like it's very dangerous. Queen g3, I would go with queen g3. Then probably you got to play f5, because if you retreat the knight, it's probably just mate. So you get to play f5, and then you are not really threatening to take on e4. So white might follow up with, even with something like this. Knight on b3 is not doing much just yet, but, well, you know, it covers c5, covers a5 sometimes, an opponent square. So all those Caro-Kann positions look very dangerous to me for black, but you know, it must be some reaction. I mean, this is, I'm thinking if this is an option, strangely enough. Bishop takes h6, and some move over there. Probably not. White simply is a healthy pawn up. Yeah, I thought of something like queen b6, or, well, actually queen a5 somehow might work. Targeting a2 and, well, threatening to capture the bishop. Here I don't really see any other follow-ups for white apart from bishop well, g5. Yeah, maybe g5 is what black dislikes in this situation, because this is probably just winning for white, particularly in this variation. This double attack decides it all. Right, so after g4, Gunina went for queen c7. And isn't this dangerous? g5, knight e4. I would be really scared even of this move, you know. And queen e4 seems to be another decent idea. Well, once again, keeping in mind some possible... Oh, well, hang on a second. Here it's king h7. Here it's king h7, and it's far from being clear, because after queen d4, seemingly a double attack, black has... It is indeed a double attack, but black has double defense. Knight f6, knight runs away and covers g7 square. Right, it might be not that simple. H takes g5. I mean, all those positions are somehow dangerous for black. That's I'm sure. That's a safe assessment. But win it on his spot, I'm not quite sure. This h7, check on c3. How about that? So that, yeah, this actually wins, because, yeah, knight f6. I don't believe you can hold this one with such a pin. Probably, well, even though queen f4 is an idea, it might be. Probably I have to go king g7, by the way. Yeah, to make sure my knight on f6 is defended. Yeah, it's not that simple. This even bishop f6 is not that easy to refute with king being on g7. With king on h8, it had an easy refutation with rook takes d7, so that would be just winning for white. But with king on h7, check, and even bishop f6 looks playable. And then, actually in this position, I must say that being white, I would really regret my knight being on b3 far away from the action. So it might be... Yeah, might be this straightforward g5 does not really work. All right, what else do we have? What developments here? Gunina. After g4, queen c7, Alexandra Kosteniuk took on f6, and Gunina recaptured with the knight. So now g5 is pretty much an issue. And I think a very serious one, because after this you do play h6 first, and then you, well, once again, I'm kind of not sure what happens. If I play h7, and then king g7 is probably a risky business because of bishop takes g5, threatening bishop h6. So you do go king h8. And then once again, it looks so scary to me. I mean, having king on h8 and after bishop c3 to allow this spin is something you don't do voluntarily. Even though black is, well, black is a pawn up and the knight on b3 is far away from the action. So it might be not sufficient, but I would be really, really scared with black, that's I'm sure. Right, so checking what else before we go for a first break today, checking what else. Representation of Russia, Valentina Gunina, very principal opponent. For those who just tuned in, I would like to remind that CaroKann was played, a CaroKann with knight d2, d4 and bishop f5 with opposite castles, and particularly this white 16th move g4 made it clear that Alexandra wants to play for a win. 16th g4, intending to break with g5, intending to, well, create a kingside attack. So queen c7, knight f6, queen f6, and then I was trying to make g5 work, but never materialized on the board. White went for somewhat slower approach, rook g1, preparing g5, but this seemingly gives black a possibility to search for a counterplay. Rook f d8, queen goes to e2, and a7, a5. Yeah, making precisely trying to make the point out of this knight b3 being somewhat misplaced. And a2, a4 played by Alexandra Kosteniuk. Still, it would have been interesting to try g5. H takes, and I was thinking to take with the rook. Probably doesn't work. So a4, and then my point is that you of course do not play knight a1 in this position, but you try to do this, but it's one check on g7, so it's pointless. Black captures, check, black goes king h8, and black is the one to mate on c2. Right, so this would not work, even though there is some knight a5, but it feels awkward, it feels loose. I mean, rook on g5 might be hanging many lines. No, this was probably not an option. a4. a4 allows to attack this pawn somehow, but this might be somewhat too long. Queen c6, queen takes a4, and still you're not threatening anything. So if black wants to go for a counterplay, it probably must be connected with b7, b5. Not sure if I can make it work at once. b5, can this be possible? So that if queen takes, rook d5 feels quite useful. I mean, to put the rook on d5 to stop g5 possibly, and then, yeah, I don't know if there is any. Yeah, this doesn't seem to work, right? Or it does. Rook a5. No, it's just silly. Okay, so and after queen e2, already queen c6 comes into consideration, possibly starting with rook c8, targeting here. Even though then white probably switches from the attack to something like bishop e3. Yeah, bishop c3 would allow this check, and then black at least picks on a4, which is not such an achievement, probably king b1, and white might be still better. Yeah, but it does feel like b5 is one sensible move that you want to try. And of course this recapture is, well, you do not really consider this one for long after a4, when you realize you have to go to a1. And that certainly means something went wrong. But if b5 is not an option, yeah, rook d5 was played, by the way, preparing for b5. Which is still fine, probably, because g5 here somehow loses a serious part of its benefits, because you can take with the rook, but then a pair of rooks comes off, in fact, and black has little to worry about. Black can play knight d5 now. This one was a piece blunder. Knight d5, rook d5, and check on f4 in the end doesn't work. Yeah, bishop f4, rook f4 in this, bishop g5, rook g5, this check is refuted with queen d2. So knight d5 was the blunder. Then it might make it somewhat awkward for black, but still what white is threatening in this position, yeah, must be perfectly playable. So I would still try to make b5 work. And, well, not that I'm criticizing the move rook d5 by Valentina. It might as well be that b5 was not working. But the speed she played rook d5 suggests that she did not even consider b7, b5, which is, well, at least I don't see a clear refutation to this one. So it's somewhat puzzling what could stop Gunina from at least considering b7, b5. Okay, so checking the other games. If Kosteniuk went for g5 after rook d5, so it was g5, h, g5, bishop g5. Which feels, I don't know, it feels somewhat wrong. And I would actually try to look for some sort of a tactic over there. Probably was not available. Rook e5 played by Gunina, where Kosteniuk replied with queen f3. Feels somewhat dangerous though. Is knight h5 an option? Well, feels very risky, but who knows. Still, knight b3 is not an ideal piece. So the point here, if you capture on h5, then black has this tactic. Takes, check over there, and queen captures, black gets an extra pawn, and after playing bishop f6, black's king will be much safer than its rival. So this must be very good for black. Alternatively, I don't see the way for white to refute knight h5, because this, well, queen takes, knight from h5, once again, it's a very nice square for the knight. Guards g7, black wants to play rook f5 and put the knight on f4. Now, this feels nice. This feels nice for black. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, white's idea, if black has to react somehow, because white's idea is to play bishop f4. But knight h5, of course, is an option. I'm thinking, though, if there is something. Is this dangerous? So knight takes, queen takes, and I thought white is threatening rook g7. I'm not sure. It might be. But, you know, even bishop f8 which is once again an ugly move to play. But how do you exploit this spin with white? It's not clear. Rook g5, you do have rook c5 still, the queen is hanging. Yeah, even this is possible. So knight h5 seems to win a pawn for Valentina Gunina. So something must have gone wrong for Alexandra Kosteniuk here. Right, let's go back to the game of Gunina. Gunina went to take on h5. Well, first, by the way, first she played rook c8, which is somewhat surprising because this way you do improve white's situation. I mean, the knight is much better placed on d4 than b3. So it is somewhat puzzling. Knight takes h5 now, bishop e7 and queen e7 played. Still a pawn though. Still an extra pawn for black, and so far I failed to see how white is planning to prove a compensation. I mean, the position is playable as it is. I mean, you can go king b1, you protect your centralized knight with c3, and you try to create some, let's say, some threats against black king, somewhat exposed. You do have two open files against the king, after all. But, so I mean, from practical standpoint, it's pretty much playable still. But obviously, it has to be better for black. So the king is relatively safe still, and it is an extra pawn. So I don't know how this game is going to finish, but for the time being, it is better for black. Kosteniuk is, well, has half an hour less on the clock as well, which is not much of an issue considering 25 moves being made already. But, you know, it's not clear. I mean, you have to start playing good moves, and you have to start doing this quickly. Then you have a chance with white. Right, meanwhile, Gira and Batse position after exchange on e7. Instead of king b1, which I thought was a useful move, Alexandra went for knight b5, heading to d6. So once again, straightforward chess from Alexandra Kosteniuk, from the chess queen. Rook goes to f5 with the tempo, but it's kind of a strange tempo. You might not want to win it because knight d6 will come with the tempo and with the fork. So white will probably move this queen somewhere. Even though it might be not easy to move it, because I just realized that queen c5 is the next move. So say, if I go queen e2, then probably queen c5 is there. Yeah, I mean, knight d6, rook f2 probably favors black. And otherwise, f2 is, yeah, well, d2 still threatening knight d6. Then knight f4 is there. Yeah, somehow it's not very comfortable for white. Yeah, actually queen e2 would allow knight f4 at once. Yeah, black is much better. No questions asked. Black is certainly much better. Well, meanwhile, Kosteniuk is in trouble against Gunina. Gunina is the pawn up, and, well, with potential to play for an attack. So altogether, quite a dangerous situation for current Russian champion Alexandra Kosteniuk. is in trouble against Valentina Gunina. That's the current position in this game. Knight b5, rook f5 we've seen, and queen e2 allowed queen h4. I don't know if this move was missed by Alexandra, targeting both pawns, f2 and a4, where Alexandra played knight d6. Double attacking the rooks, rook takes f2, so white has to give the queen, knight c8. Here, well, I'm still not sure if Gunina had to play f5, but she did so. King b1 was the answer of Kosteniuk, knight g3, check on d8, and king went to h7, using the fact that the h1 square is covered. Rook went to d1, and Gunina simply pushes this pawn forward and, well, makes an argument that the pawn cannot be stopped. And rightly so, I think rightly so. So the knight is far away on c8, and you do not really have any kind of a threat against the black king. So this pawn should probably cost white a rook, and therefore the game. So Kosteniuk is in very serious trouble, and she's below the 20. Well, time is not the major factor in this game. 20 minutes for Kosteniuk for 7 moves, but it's the position that is terribly bad for white. Knight e7, f3, rook d2 might be an idea. But even so, queen c5. I mean, well, actually, knight e2 I thought for a bit, but then other rook mates me. So after knight e7, I might want actually to play something else, just not to get into any danger of losing. Because after f3, rook d2, I mean, I have to be tricky already. I have to go there. And then rook h2, knight h5 I will have to play, which is still fine, which is still probably fine, but feels sorts of awkward. Then white can play knight d5, and after g6, probably black is still winning. Yeah, must be so. Black must be winning. But could be that knight e7 you have to answer with something else. Queen c5 at once, attacking the knight, and still h1 is covered. Maybe this is the way. And then black can even play g5 later on. Yeah, it is objectively winning for black, but still Alexandra will try to find at least the best chance. Right, and the second player is checked, and g1, f4 was played, rook 8 went to d7, targeting g7, f3, so Gunina pays a little attention to this. After knight d6 she plays queen e2, and I assume after this move she's, well, one thing she can do, she can play knight f5. But I guess probably f2 is the move Valentina Gunina is planning to make, and after this simply to go king h6. Well, white has to resign immediately because f1 is a threat, queen takes d1 is a threat, so you can't even, well, given if white would manage to somehow give an exchange for a pawn on f2, then it would have been playable, but it's not the fact simply. I mean, it's not possible at all. Yeah, and this knight, remember I said this knight on b3 was misplaced, and this knight made the long journey around the board, but still it's not useful on the king's side, which would have been a nice, it could have been a nice support at this knight, possibly stopping the pawn, but yeah, it never got back from b3. So it is hopeless for Kosteniuk and Gunina. Her opponent will finish the tournament on a positive note on +1, and so +1 score it will be for Kosteniuk. Well, it actually does not threaten to take on d5. White is not threatening to take on d5. Yeah, meanwhile, the first game of today's last round is finished. It's Valentina Gunina to overtake Alexandra Kosteniuk with a nice final touch. After queen e2, rook g1, queen g2 was played by Valentina Gunina. So, well, not forced, but nevertheless it's a nice queen sacrifice. If queen is taken, then white can't do anything to stop this pawn. Right, they both finish on +1. Well, a very solid middle game of the tournament. So she started not very well, could have lost to Khanty-Mansiysk, eventually lost the game. Then she had a very good run in the middle game of the tournament, and well, but the bad finish spoils it off. They both finish on +1. Spend some time defending, somewhat worse rook ending. So we welcome a first press conference of today. Valentina Gunina beats Alexandra Kosteniuk with black, equals in score with her on +1, and possibly overtakes her in the Grand Prix, in the overall Grand Prix count. Right, and then I'm back after this one is finished.
So, dear chess friends, the first game of the 11th round of the 5th FIDE Women's Grand Prix leg in Khanty-Mansiysk has finished. Valentina Gunina won against Alexandra Kosteniuk by black. So, what went wrong for white in this position in CaroKann?
They played badly, obviously.
Yes, I didn't like this move. I calculated immediately.
G5?
Yeah, G5. But I'm not sure.
And how did you estimate your position in this stage of the game?
Well, I thought with knight on b3, G4, G5 not so strong. So I of course I was afraid, because it always looks so scared. But I thought it's okay for me.
And further on, how did you manage to gain advantage?
Well, here, yeah, this I like my position. So, and I just took the pawn. And I didn't see how white can keep this pawn.
And then you also gain some material and okay. So let's draw some conclusions. What do you think about your performance in this event? Play and
Well, I finished with positive this last round, because I lost too much in this last series. So for me it's fine now.
Alexandra, what about you?
I think it's too early for me to say, because when you lose, I mean, you tend to, make wrong conclusions. So I need some time to cool down, and then I'll analyze my performance.
Do you have any questions? Just a second, please.
I have questions to Valentina. You have only to draw on the whole tournament. How explain your playing usual? There are many wins, there are many losses.
Well, I will work about to make a draw, at least in some games, because I just lost a lot of points. Yeah, and it took too much energy when you always have this winning style.
I have questions to the boss. Before the start of tournament, do you think about the chance to won the place on the World Champions match?
Well, you just play. I mean, it's a very tough tournament. You cannot.
Yeah,
I mean, you
long.
try your best, but then how it goes, I mean, it's not up to you. Well, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for analysis.
Okay.
See you.